welcome to another episode of the Andrew Roman Show. I'm glad you tuned in. I'm glad you're listening. Today, we have yet another exclusive, one-of-a-kind, never to be seen again in the same way interviews with my homie Nico. What's up, bro?
How's it going, man?
Good. Man, I got my homies. And hey, if this is the first time you're tuning in, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Almost done with my plug. Leave us a 5-star review because those 5-star reviews get us into the top charts. And actually, dude, these new phones, man, I barely know how to do that. How do you go to the podcast?
Got it right here.
Dude, I'm sorry. We're showing the latest reviews. These are completely real, not making these up. Check them out on Apple Podcasts, and while you're there, leave yours. They say fun, honest, and intelligent conversations.
Okay.
Loved it.
Wow.
From EBP.
High praise.
High praise, man. How about this one? Best podcast of 2020. Oh, snap.
Oh, wow.
Okay, this guy. Wow. Love everything about you in your show. Keep up the good work. Let's get this worldwide. Bro,
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
one
you,
more.
Josh.
One more. Thank you, Josh. And informative and entertaining. Straight to the point.
Okay.
Admiral Mac, we appreciate
Thank you.
And straight to the point, hey, make sure to leave your review. And without wasting more time or investing more time in plugs, let's get to this, man. Okay. Let's get to this. So this is my homie Nico. Dude, we've been friends for...
We've been friends forever. I mean, since we were little kids, honestly. Babies.
Yeah, it's been so long that, you kind of lose track. Time, that's literally how...
You're my day one, man. Since way back in Mexico.
Since way back in Mexico, bro.
De Mexico.
De este cuate, mira, déjame te digo, este cuate ya habla español y todo. Nos vemos blancos.
Sí,
vemos blancos, pero somos mexicanos. Mm-hmm. ¿Qué podemos decir?
Never
¿verdad?
forget that.
Never forget that. I know we look white, but we're Mexican. And one of the things that we love to do together, we love to play music. And for a long time, I was the more musical one.
Definitely.
Would you say?
Yeah.
I was a lot more musical.
Yeah.
And but I always believed in his vocal range, and because at that point I was kind of hitting puberty, and if you've ever as a man hit some puberty, yeah, your range just plummets, boom.
It was a crazy time.
It was a crazy time, and so after hanging out for a lot of years, whenever we moved here. There was maybe about a year or so that we didn't see each other much.
Yeah.
And it was just life was busy. And then when I saw you, all of a sudden you went from zero musical talent. I'm just kidding.
No, that's
zero musical talent to this guy now sings amazing, plays the guitar, and is a huge John Mayer fan.
Yeah, I got really into guitar, and then kind of what sparked the whole thing before I didn't really care at all was John Mayer.
It just started it all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, if you don't know who John Mayer, look him up right now. One of the best songwriters of our time.
He's one of the best songwriters, I think. Also one of the greatest guitar players alive.
And actually, that's made me enjoy his music more.
Yeah.
You've actually helped me because I love writing music, but I don't really listen to music.
Yeah.
He always, literally, he picks up. Okay, he's the guy who picks up the guitar and will play Slow Dancing in the Burning Room.
Yep.
Every single time. If you're a guitarist, you feel me. You feel me. That's the song that gets played in every Guitar Center.
You got to play that song. You have to.
You have to play that song. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna test you. What's his biggest hit?
His biggest hit, chart wise?
Yeah.
Probably "Waiting on the World to Change" is one of his biggest songs.
Yeah. You know what that song that was on Evan Almighty. The second one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
that's where I knew that back in the day, bro,
right.
of Evan Almighty. What's one of your favorite songs from him?
"Stop This Train," hands down.
Hands down, "Stop This Train." And it's hard, man. To play that in the guitar is really hard, and he does it. You do a great job with it. And you actually told me a little bit about the meaning of it. Mm-hmm. And if you've never listened to his music, pause this podcast right now. Go to Spotify, go to Apple Music, and listen to "Stop This Train."
Yeah,
so you have a little bit of context of what we're talking about. What's the song about?
So "Stop This Train," it's an album it's a song from Continuum. Okay. It's sort of like an existential crisis that he has, and then he sort of starts from it's a progression. He starts being confused and sort of fighting against the idea of getting old, and then by the end, he sort of come to terms with it and realize that you don't have to be depressed or angry about getting old, but it's sort of something that's painfully beautiful, almost.
Tragically beautiful in a way. Painfully beautiful is probably a better way to put it. And it's kind of he just goes through the cycle of life.
Yeah, almost.
You're young, you don't want to get old.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
what would you say is like your favorite song? Your favorite line from the song?
So scared of getting older, I'm only good at being young.
Sing it. Do it.
So scared of getting older, I'm only good at being young.
Man, if you couldn't see my face, I did the stink face. I was like, look at that.
Yeah, that's my favorite line. For
Yeah.
sure.
And it's so true. It's so true. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're scared of getting older, but it's going to happen, and it is happening. You know, and one of the other ones that I really like the line is something about one generation, finding life on my own. Yes, I stink, okay? I'm not a John Mayer fan like he is, okay? But you could probably finish it for me.
He says, I don't want to see my parents grow old. I'm one generation's length away from fighting life on my own.
Yo, if we had a button to go, like that hit.
You. Yeah.
That hit me. Dude, that's so true. Like, that's so true. It's kind of like he uses a train as life, right? Like, it just keeps
it's
going.
Pretty much a metaphor.
It's a metaphor for life and all that. And sometimes we're so busy trying to stop the train, trying to like, I don't want to get older, you know, I don't want to, I always want to be young, YOLO it, you know, I don't. And that we really miss the beauty of all the places that the train takes us.
Yeah.
You know, of all looking out the window instead of getting so worried about it. And hey, I want to encourage you. I don't know what you're up to today and who you're seeing, if you're seeing your family again or whoever it might be, really enjoy the moment you're in and in the people that you're with.
Yeah.
The people you're with. And I love, like in that song, he brings, you know, his dad into it.
Yeah. Sort of the
conversation with
the climax of the song is that he has a conversation with his dad, and he kind of explains to him that, hey, you know, the train, it's not something that is bad inherently, and it ends with him realizing he won't stop, you know, aging and getting old, but at the same time, you know, just go along for the ride.
Go along for the ride. That's exactly true, because we can't stop it. We can't stop it. We're gonna get old, and one of the things about getting older is that you come with different challenges, right? Different challenges, different opportunities. I mean, you're not, 13-year-old is not facing the same things than a 21-year-old or 20-year-old.
Definitely.
And as actually, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, I mean, as we got older, we had to kind of forget a little bit of the music, and we competed in speech and debate.
Yeah.
Do you remember them years, bro?
Oh, man, I will never forget.
The speech and debate, bro. Okay, like, how would you summarize real quick what speech and debate is?
Basically, it's something my parents forced me to do when I was 13.
All right, that's it. Dude, if you leave that sounds wrong. Like, what the heck is that?
No, it's basically competitive debate, and then you also have to prepare speeches. There's also speeches that you have to do as impromptu speeches.
Like on the spot. For those, the laymen don't know what impromptu means.
Yeah,
I learned literally what the word impromptu was, and that's it. Like, whenever we moved to the States, I saw his family do it. They're like all in it. I mean, look, the Ruiz family is legendary in the speech and debate world. And I saw him, I was like, dude, I'm never doing this.
Yeah.
Like, never. A couple years later, yes, I ended up doing it.
Yeah, well, I never wanted to do it either. But I think, you know, as you get older, and as I got older too, I started to appreciate it, especially after I left, you know. And there was a lot of things I took away that it was really valuable, specifically just kind of realizing how the world works, you know, the U.S. specifically, how the government operates and how we get things done and legislation.
That's a good point, because honestly, I don't know if like a lot of people know that. You know, there's so many people. If you live in the States, and if you don't live in the States, the same question is like, do you know how your government operates? Do you know this? Because sometimes we want to try to live so isolated from politics.
Yeah.
But honestly, like we live in a time where you cannot be. Like, it's a social media. It's like impossible, especially like from the presidential race that's going. I mean, if you know who Mike Bloomberg is, I'm pretty sure every American who watches YouTube knows who Mike Bloomberg is. You've
probably gotten one for this show.
You got the show. No joke. I got an ad from him. I watched the video. I played the next video. I got another ad from it, completely different.
Yeah.
And he was running for the Democratic Party, right? For that. And actually, that's something that we'll spend a little bit of time on. Just talking about politics, but not politics in the way of like just politics.
I know a lot of you probably want to stop the video now when you heard politics.
Like, I don't really care about politics. Or there's some like, well, this is interesting.
Yeah.
But we're not necessarily going to get in the nitty gritty of politics, right? It's really the big picture of politics, what the role of politics is, and what it should be, and what's going on now. because as one of my favorite actors, Denzel Washington once said that if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. If you read the news, you're misinformed.
That's pretty good.
Okay, like let that sink right there. If you didn't listen right now at that stoplight that you're in. If you don't read the news, you're uninformed. If you do read the news, you're misinformed. I mean, I feel like that's so true now.
Yeah,
because
honestly.
we live in the age of Twitter, bro. I mean, we like those headlines.
Yeah.
We like those headlines. That's kind of what we used to think is headlines.
There's so much information just at our fingertips. It's crazy. I mean, even for my generation, I feel like online we're more involved in politics than ever. Everyone has an opinion about the president or about different policies, and it's impossible to escape, honestly.
It is. I mean, back then you could sit around the table and you could talk about the local newspaper and you were like, oh, this candidate, this politician, and then talk about it in the kitchen table, and that was it. And if you want it, go vote.
Right.
But now is, you don't necessarily have to vote. It's just tweet something, say your opinion, and thousands, if not millions of people can see it if something gets retweeted or something like that. It's hard to escape it. Yeah. So since it's hard to escape it, we might as well address it. Since it's hard, like we just can't avoid it, so we might as well address it. Get us up a little bit up to, what is it, like up to date?
Yeah, up to speed on everything.
Mira, soy mexicano. A veces se me van las palabras, ¿ok? Entonces ya no me juzguen. It's like I'm Mexican. Sometimes my English or my vocabulary gets a little limited. Especially because I speak so many words in a matter of minutes. And so get us up to date of what's going on right now in the big picture. It's take this as your couple minutes of dose of politics, so you're on it. If someone asks you what's going on, this is the overview. Go ahead, reporter Nico.
Okay, today, as we are recording this, it is March 10th. So it's kind of the second wave of primaries. We had Super Tuesday, and now we have about 6 states voting to elect the next Democratic candidate. They're also voting on the Republican side. But basically what the primaries are is they choose the front runner for both parties.
The representative.
Right, representatives.
Okay.
So on the Republican side, I mean, obviously we have Trump.
Right.
He's kind of the de facto
kind of like label Republican, and then it's kind of like who's really going to run against him.
Yeah, he's pretty much he's running again for re-election. And then on the
if he wasn't running for re-election, then it'd be someone else.
That would be interesting, yeah.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and then on the Democratic side, we have right now the two front runners are really Joe Biden, who's a former vice president to former President Obama.
Okay.
And then we have Bernie Sanders, the self-proclaimed Democratic Socialist.
So, you said that, self-proclaimed Democratic Socialist. Okay, so maybe depending how long you've been on the train, of life, it's kind of like this new wave that's coming, bro.
Yeah,
This new wave of like Democratic Socialism.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
What? Excuse my French, but what in the world is like what's Democratic Socialism, anyways?
Well, I think we're all familiar with socialism in Venezuela and Cuba, sort of like the evil forms of it. I mean, everyone knows those examples. Yeah. But something that's kind of...
And it's cousin communism.
Yeah, something that's gotten really popular is this democratic socialism, something that countries like Denmark and Sweden have in Europe. Also, Canada has forms of it as well. And it's really just economic socialism, traditional socialist policies, but they're enacted by democratically elected candidates. So that's why it's called democratic socialism.
Got it. Okay, democratic. So basically the people who implement the policies are democratically elected. So kind of like within the structure of the U.S., like you still get to vote, which is great.
Yeah.
In that sense, it's great, but it doesn't take away from like the policies as still being like socialist policies. Right. Now, what exactly is that? And we won't take too long, but I think it's still a little bit important.
It's really important,
to really talk about this, because I've heard this, especially, I mean, I've just seen that Bernie Sanders especially has so much young support.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, dude, the guy's what, 80, 70, 78?
77, I think.
Dude, 77.
Yeah.
That guy's been like in old. Politics, over like half a century.
Yeah, long time.
Dude,
long time.
Think about that. Guy's been in politics for like more than half a century.
Yeah.
And instead of like young people saying, I don't know, that guy's just old, they're saying, wow, I want to vote for him. Like what's the appeal?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that he's really popular amongst young people. A lot of people are like, why does he appeal to young voters so much? Especially those are the people who give him a lot of money too, since he's almost entirely funded by just individual donors.
Which that's crazy, by the way.
Yeah,
a lot of
it's
times
crazy.
it's big corporations or just a big one
He's
big
no Mike
donor.
Bloomberg, yeah.
This is not. It's not a Mike Bloomberg. Exactly.
And what's interesting is if you look at the reasons why, I think I saw a recent poll, 80% of voters for Bernie say that healthcare was the reason why it's voted for him.
Okay.
It came down
And
to
if you're not familiar, one of his policies is to implement, as he calls it, just quote unquote free healthcare.
Yeah, or Medicare for all.
Or Medicare for all, exactly. And I've also heard he's going, college for all, free college, forgiveness of student
debt.
Student loans. And I mean, dude, if we're just going by highlights, if we're just going by headlines, I'm in.
Yeah.
Free healthcare, free college, and I'm blessed enough not to owe anything on me. But if I did and money, like, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And I don't know if you could kind of like dispel a little bit or just bring some truth into the examples that are used. There's two sides. They say, well, socialism doesn't work because look at Venezuela, right? And they're like, no, wait. This is democratic socialism.
Right.
Look at Denmark.
Yeah.
Look at Canada. Are those like good examples to really equate it to the U.S. or I don't know, is that a little bit far-fetched to use them?
So with any politician and their policies, it's really important to look at how they would be implemented in our country, because countries like Denmark and Sweden have really high quality of life. They're great places to live in, but they're really different from America. And so if we look at democratic socialism and how it would be implemented, it's important, especially if you're going to vote, to look at behind the policies, how they work.
Go behind the curtain.
Yeah, definitely.
See how they work. And like, for example, what is it? One of the big differences of like Denmark, for example, is population affects it. And then also, it's not, we don't live, unfortunately, we don't live in the utopia where you can have everything without giving up anything.
Yeah, so in countries like Denmark, for example, they're really wealthy, but they also have really high taxes and tax rates. I think it's more than like 70% of your income is taxed, which is why they have great, programs.
Because they just have so much money to support everyone because everyone has pitched in a great amount.
And that's obviously different than America. I mean, if you look at our debt.
Dude, we can't pay for anything.
It's
like
terrible.
I have more money than the government.
How does the government pay for anything right now? Yeah.
Exactly. And a lot of times, you said it, man. You said it. Is we're not here to tell you vote for a specific person or don't vote for a specific person. What we're saying is think.
Yeah.
Think critically, because then you can make an actual intellectual decision to not vote for a certain person, because when you look behind the curtain, the policies might not really work.
I think that's the most important thing. I mean, I think, you're doing a disservice even if you look at Bernie and you say, he's crazy or he's just some radical liberal. I mean, definitely look behind the policies and then from there make your decision. And I think there's a lot of people who validly don't think his policies would work in America and they don't vote for him. And the same goes for our current president, Trump, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Just look deeper than...
Look deeper. And I think, right now we're so focused on if it takes time, it's not worth it. It's not worth my time.
Yeah.
And we don't look deeper into it. And actually, that's one of the things that Nico has encouraged me so much, because I don't know, coming from Mexico, I wasn't fully involved in politics too much. His family was always like the intellectual family. That I was like, man, they're so into that and all this. And then he gave me like just different sources that I like resubscribe to just to kind of get a good dose of what's going on and to look behind the curtain.
Yeah. I mean, I know I used to not care about politics for a long time, especially when I was in my younger teenage years. I just cared about, video games, things like that. But I think it's really important, especially if you're young and you're watching this, that you vote this election if you can.
Yeah.
But also, kind of on the flip side, I think especially in the climate that we're in right now, it can be really hostile. And a lot of people wonder, as Christians, what do we do? You know, how do we vote? Do we vote for Trump? Do we not? Or what do we do? What's the answer to this?
Here's one thing that I've heard. It's kind of like and I didn't mean to cut you off, but we define each other by politics now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we don't
100%.
necessarily look at the person as a person, as a quality.
Right.
If you're a Democrat, you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
If you're a Republican, you're a Republican. Like that, boom, I know everything about you.
Yeah.
Because you're
It's the system in America, honestly. Like you have two options, Republican or Democrat, and then whoever you choose, that's your guy. You're 100% behind them.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there's other countries that do more than two parties. And I think where we're going to get it's beyond that.
Yeah. So
it's beyond
I guess
that.
one thing I just want to say is that definitely vote. If you're in America, it's an amazing privilege we have, especially it's something that everyone should do just because we live in a democracy. But also it's important to get some perspective on, where it stands in our lives. And I think that, politics and party identification, it's not the end goal, honestly. I'm always reminded of in the Old Testament, in Samuel, actually, when the Israelites, after they had gotten out of Egypt, they came to Samuel, and they had leaders back then, but they came to him and they specifically said, we want a king. We want a king just like every other country, all these other countries had great kingdoms and they always had a king behind it.
Yeah.
And Samuel went to God and he said, what do I do? And God told him, yeah, you don't need a king. I'm your king. Why would you want someone who is a man to lead you? You have me, the greatest king of all. And so Samuel went back. He told the Israelites, and again they said, no, we want a king. We want someone we can rally behind, someone who can be our guy to fight for us. And so then God told them, okay, I'll give you a king. Here's Saul.
Wow.
And ultimately, the kings and the whole system of kings is what kind of ruined Israel. And it brought them into captivity in Babylon, and ultimately destroyed them. And so I think it's just really important that we realize as Christians that, the government, it's a man-made institution. So it's going to be inherently flawed and faulty. And we have to realize that God is the end-all. He's the be-all. He is the final authority on everything.
I think that's so powerful just to apply that in our lives, because you're right. We live, I think as human beings, we're made to, then the Bible says that we're made to worship God. And if we're not worshiping God, we're worshiping something.
Yeah.
Other than God. Like there's always something that's sitting on the throne of our hearts, if you will, that like we're just made to idolize. I mean, think about celebrities. That's why celebrities are even celebrities, because we naturally idolize people.
Yeah.
And what government, I think what has become, and let's just, besides government, like just politics in general, in this hostile environment, has become such an idol.
Yeah, and it's so polarizing too. If you're for someone, that means that automatically you hate the opposite, Or
even to the point of now becoming being called immoral.
Yeah.
Immoral for supporting someone. I mean, before politics, there was two parties, Democrats and Republicans. They all wanted the same thing and just getting there in a different way, And then nowadays, like you said, there's so many branches within Democrats or within Republicans anyways.
Yeah.
But I think that perspective that you bring, and I think it hits home to everyone. If you're listening, if you're watching, I think it hits home to really understand, look, where is God in my life? Have I actually placed him in just the school bucket, as we've seen in one episode? Have I placed him just in the church bucket? In the politics, it's like, this is my own little bucket, right?
Yeah.
It's the man bucket to play God.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times that's what politicians do. They try to play God.
Yeah, definitely.
And they can't fix the problem. I mean, one of the saddest things is when I see people think that government can fix their lives.
Yeah.
It can't.
No.
¿Verdad? Hasta lo dijo en español. No puede, no se puede. O sea, el gobierno no lo puede hacer. It's only God who, like, I encourage you today, as Gandhi once said, that be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was Gandhi. If not,
It definitely was.
It definitely was Gandhi, right? Yeah, he was. Man, I can't do a Gandhi accent. But be the change that you want to be in the world. Like, honestly, don't look for the change. And we've talked about this in several episodes. Don't look for the change out there.
Yeah.
Jesus can transform your own life.
Yeah.
So then you can transform the lives of others. And then of others and others. We need more people in the public square.
Absolutely.
We need more Christians in public policy to implement biblical values. Because yes, although government by itself is a man-made system, there are biblical principles to run it better. There are biblical principles to make it succeed. I mean, that's why America has done such a great job. To why it's still standing.
Definitely.
You know, and we want to encourage you today. We want to encourage you to place God where he belongs. Don't let politics get that place. Don't let arguments take that place. Check your heart, and whatever has taken God's place, put it down and put God where he belongs, and is the very center of your life. Nico, my man, thanks for being with me, dude.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. We'll have you back on. We'll see you next episode. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.